Today is a pretty significant milestone because after working nonstop for the last year on our 6.2 liter twin turbocharged extended cab drag and drive Silverado, we just might be able to call phase one complete. But of course, as always, we got a few more things left to do here in the shop. We got a few last fuel delivery issues that we're working our way through, and then when we're done, we can actually put some E85 in the tank and we can crank up the boost a little bit from our 8 PSI baseline. Now, last time you guys saw the truck, we had just barely installed our triple 400 D-Works pumps into the tank. And then we're starting to build some fuel lines. I had some issues with the previous lines leaking. So we're kind of switching brands for our last little run that goes from the pump to the little bulkhead that I put on the chassis there. The previous brand that I had, I kept fighting issues with, well, little leaks, which is not something that you want, just where the braided line goes into the fitting. So we're switching brands. This is Red Horse Performance, and I have now probably half the chassis plumbed in this stuff. It's still a PTFE 10AN, and it still has a stainless braid, which you probably can't see super good right now. But I like this durable outside coating. It looks nicer, and the fittings, they just seem to go on a little bit tighter, and I haven't had any issues so far with that brand Red Horse leaking. So like I said, we're slowly switching everything over as we have issues. Once we get those lines built, I do have to notch the bottom side of the bed just to allow the fuel lines to go from where they are to where they need to go without pinching. And once we have that done, the bed can go back onto the truck. We'll do our final leak check, of course, and then we'll do a few more test drives. All right, here we go again. Short while later, we have the fuel tank portion of the install wrapped up. We still need to notch the bottom of the bed. We'll get to that in a minute. And I still have to build a bracket kind of like right in here to hold these two lines from flopping around too much. But that's what the finished product looks like. We got the 3 10-gauge wires. I just had them coiled up there a moment ago, but they were ran all the way through the factory harness. So we didn't really have to run anything front to back now. Just had to make the terminations at the tank. So we've got 1 10-gauge for the primary pump and 2 10-gauges running the secondary pumps, because there's 2 pumps tied together and they have a pretty good current draw when they're both engaged. So now I need to just make the connections at the relays up front. We have 270 amp relays. That's definitely overkill even for the 2 pumps, but I'd rather be overkill than, you know, melt down a 40 amp relay or something like that, because technically 40 amps would do it, but I don't want to say what if. What if we burn this thing to the ground? No, thank you. So I just need to make one last connection up here under the fuse block. We're going to have the factory relay control the primary relay here, and the Hobbs switch is going to control the secondary. So I just need to tie into this connector down here. That gray wire on the corner is the 12 volt output from that relay. And again, the stock wiring just isn't enough to trigger those big old Deechworks 400 pumps, but it's more than enough to control a relay. Oh, another cool fact, instead of cutting that wire, I have one of these guys left over, so we're just gonna repin or unpin the connector, insert this orange wire, and make that go directly to the relay. Wiring 101. You should know by now that I really love a good sleeper build. Generally from the outside, I don't care how my project trucks look. I mean, on the 03, we got like 3 different colors of paint going on, and I think it looks just about perfect, except for the wheels. We've been rocking these 17-inch Escalade wheels, but they were only ever intended just to be rollers while we were building the project. And now that we're actually hitting the road, we need an upgrade, both in terms of the aesthetics, how the wheels look, and for tire choices, because with those 17s, there's just not a lot of great options for a good all-around tire. And of course, they just look dated. So we got some new wheels. This is the Defiant DF18. It's a fairly new wheel brand, and it looks awesome. This is a 20x9, and it has a milled face right here, and then it has the gloss high metallic silver, so it looks really cool. You may not have heard of Defiant Wheels before because it's a fairly new brand, like I said, but they're actually made by a company you have heard of, which is OE Wheels. They're the same guys that provided the 20-inch wheels we ran on Ugly Truck and the 18-inch ZR1 replicas that we ran on the 2nd gen Cyclone. So made with the same great quality, but they have some all new designs. And like silver is not a color you see a lot of nowadays. Most wheels are black or they're polished. But to me, this looks really awesome. So huge shout out to Defiant Wheels for sponsoring today's video. And of course, because they are a sponsor, we have something for you guys, a discount code. Use LT Tolman and the links below to get 10% off your new set of wheels, which is awesome. And there's 2 links below, one for OE wheels and one for Defiant Wheels. So if you like an OEM style replica, or you want something that looks a little bit, more updated, more aftermarket, they've got a wheel for you. So definitely check them out. Unfortunately, I can't get these mounted up right now because my tires are not here yet. They're on the way, but apparently they're on the slow boat. So next time probably we'll get these mounted up. But I will tell you, the tires we chose, they're a little bit or a lot bit wider than the ones that we have on here now, because we need all the grip. We got both fuel pump relays fully installed now. We function tested everything. We made sure the Hobbs switch energizes when it should. We made sure the stock relay energizes the primary relay, and that everything is doing exactly what it should. And then to kind of clean things up a little bit, we put the fuse block cover on for good. That's kind of like bugged me for a while. And then we put the little fender corner brace back on just to neaten things up. Now, side note, I really need to, or I should say needed to, put some wire loom on the rest of the harness, because like everything is still kind of exposed. But here's the deal. It's now the 21st of August. I had planned on getting this truck on the road back in April, 4 months ago. That obviously didn't work, but here we are. The season is almost over and I want to use this truck. So I think realistically for now, we're just going to start to drive it, enjoy it, and race it. And then the plan anyway was next winter, or this coming up winter, to integrate the Holley Dominator, which when we do that, pretty much every single wire under the hood is going to have to get changed anyhow. So I think we'll be all right for just a little while without wrapping the whole harness. I ended up having to build this piece because as the rib goes in, it goes out, and it wasn't wide enough. It would have looked funky. So yeah, it took probably another half hour to build this piece, but I think when we're done, it's gonna look a whole lot better than just filling a 1/4 inch gap with the welder. You know, the amount of work we've had to do to the bottom of this bed is kind of ridiculous. We've got 2 notches for our fuel pumps and lines. You probably can't see it, but when we first got the bed, it was wore through because like the leaf springs broke or something, so we had to patch here and here. We put our fuel filler little circle thing in there. I had to replace the middle bed rib because someone chopped it out. They also torched a hole in the bed floor for a gooseneck hitch at some point. And this bed's not even in that good a shape. Probably replace it someday. Well, everything's pretty much taken care of now. The paint's dry, it's put back together, aside from the bed. And the next time the bed goes onto the truck, or comes off the truck, I should say, hopefully it's a very long time from now, because that means either we're completely redoing something or something has broken pretty spectacularly. So here's what we have. I just ran the truck for probably 20 minutes just to double check that we have no fuel leaks anywhere on our new lines, which that passed with flying colors. Our little support bracket here, that should be just about flush with the bottom of the bed. Keeps the hoses up out of the way of the anti-roll bar and the shocks movement. So yeah, I've said it before, this is kind of my favorite view of the truck, just all of the exposed stuff. All the wiring looks nice, all the hoses routed neatly. Maybe someday we'll do tailpipes out the back. But for now, let's get this bed on and drive it. Now, one last thing I wanted to double check before we hit the road. Clearance between our little brace and the bed floor, which got plenty of room. Nice little air gap up there. And then finally, where is it? I want to check the clearance between the anti-roll bar, which you see obviously that twists up and down, and wherever the hoses are. Because I didn't initially like how close it was, but with all the weight of the truck on the ground, we've got like a mile of room. So we're golden. In fact, the suspension is going to bottom out on the bump stops well before that arm of the anti-roll bar gets anywhere close. So, like I said, mile of clearance, we're good. Now, I'll hesitate to use the D word, done, when describing a project, because you know me, nothing's ever truly done. But I mean, we've got the AC on, the radio works, and we're out cruising in our truck. So as far as I'm concerned, stage one is pretty much done. Now I want to drive and I want to enjoy this thing, and there's two main reasons. Number one, I sat down the other night with my spreadsheet that I keep on all my project vehicles, and I looked at that big number at the top, the total. It we're just gonna daily drive it for a little bit. We're gonna use it. Some notable things that we have left to do. We got to get a built transmission. I think I just felt a little bit of a slip on the 2-3 shift, so definitely needs a transmission. This one's straight out of the junkyard. Needs a good converter. We need to re-gear the rear end to match the front, and probably 9 million other little things, but it should be drivable, and we are going to use it and enjoy it before we tear it apart over the winter for more upgrades. But like I said, the bullet points, the AC works, it drives, the fuel system, we've got more than enough power